It's Friday. Today was the day that I set as a goal to be wrapped up with the exterior for the most part, so that we could walk away the week of Thanksgiving. And yes, it is Thanksgiving week next week, so that gives you an idea as to how far I am behind on my content. But that's what happens when you work all day, every day. You got a family, a business to run. You kind of do your best. I'm gonna bust out the Fasco joist hanger nail gun, cordless, gas powered. Not a fan of gas, but it is what it is. I'm gonna get some hangers installed up here before we start sheeting this. Gonna be putting on some 5/8 OSB. If you're going to use OSB on a steel roof, you should make sure it's a minimum of 5/8. 1/2 inch, 7/16 just doesn't have that holding power that plywood does. Now you can see how this whole thing comes together. We've got this rafter tail here that is inset, dropped down, and that's all done with math. I think it all worked out pretty good. Everything is looking good. Math never lies, people. I'm telling you, you don't get cuts like that if you don't do the math. You gotta know what your angles are, what your dimensions are. Everything comes out perfect, or really close. We'll get this whole roof sheeted, we'll get it felt papered, and then we will be able to trim and get our steel up over this section of the building so we can get this all closed off, finish our gable trims, soffits, fascia, ridge cap. Man, we got a great day ahead of us. What I like to do is make sure I put some, like, I don't know, I just call them like a hold down clip, and it's right here on my rafters. You know, just to help with uplift. I've got them all screwed down, but some additional protection is always good. Good? Yep. I'm good, right in the middle. Take a look at our fascia. How does our fascia look? I mean, we're coming off of that midpoint, which is perfect. Straight? All right. I'm not a huge fan of running the cordless Hitachi for this application, but it does the job. When you got nails, never fails. I'm out of nails. It's gonna be my next t-shirt. If somebody steals it, I'll not be happy unless they pay me royalties. And yes, I just put framing nails in because I don't have any smaller ones. So the sheeting is probably not gonna go anywhere. Now you might ask, why are we sheeting the porch roof minus the upper roof section? And I tell you, two reasons. First off, what I like to do is I like to sheet our porch roofs in case we get an overwhelming amount of roof snow that comes over and lands right here. It's kind of tucked in. Mostly when our roofs on the porch are underneath of our eaves, we worry about that snow coming off the roof on a big slide like an avalanche and crashing down. We don't want it to crunch any of our ribs. So the roof sheeting on the porch is really just an insurance protection. I don't want to come back and replace it. This doesn't cost much and it doesn't take much time, and it really adds a lot of rigidity to this roof structure on these add-on porches, just to add that extra, you know, strength, I guess. There we go, we got it sheeted. 5/8 sheeting for the win. Super sturdy, I love it. We are going to now run our felt paper. Felt paper, we put that on there just to prevent some condensation, maybe build up between the steel and the sheeting. And then what we're able to do is once we get our felt paper, we're gonna go ahead and run our steel so we can get these flashings done. But I like to run the hip cap and tuck it before I put my my steel over top of it. So we'll take you through that process, and hopefully we can get all this kind of covered up here by lunchtime. That would be awesome. So when we come back to lunch, the roof will be completely dry, cleaned off, and we should be able to finish out all this stuff. There's really no secret to how to felt a roof. We just overlap these white lines here so it's good. Yeah, that's my machine gun stapler. I love it. It's a Fasco, I don't even know, F1B 50 to 16. It's like full auto. It's crazy. Crazy cool. You will definitely waste a lot of staples because it's a lot of fun. We got the felt down. Now we're gonna go ahead and tuck our drip edge up underneath so we can start laying out our roof panels. So once I've got my felt paper ran, what I like to do is I run some J-channel and I run it right on that line. And I snap the line, even though my ridge cap or my ridge beam or rafter, whatever, was really straight. I just feel like that snap line just gives me a nice visual. I don't have to guess where exactly it's at and plane anything in. I just snap it from up there where my center was all the way out there to the corner of my overhang. And then I'm gonna run a piece of J on this side, and then I'll run another one on this side. And what that's gonna do is my steel will tuck up in, and then my hip cap will go right over top, and you won't be able to see up through here. We don't install any fillers. We don't really see that as a need on this because there's not gonna be anywhere for the wind to blow in and through like a ridge cap would, because it's blocked. Right over the hips gives me a nice line. My steel will go right up in there. Over here will also give me some support all the way out there where my hip cap is gonna bend over and be nice and clean. I'll cut all that up later. We'll get there. Wrapping up this soffit fascia here so that we'll be ready to, after this roof is here and we get that connection flashing on, we'll be able to get this steel up and over. So we're moving, we're doing it, we're getting there. So we're getting ready to cut our roof steel here, and we got all this stuff prepped. What I like to do is I always like to find my center line, which we've already got here. That's on our fascia, that's our center. And we've already got our peak way up there. So this mark right here is the longest point of my sheet. So I can get that measurement very easily. And if we did our job, all of this is square. So if we go right in the middle to right in the middle, it'll be a nice straight line. All of our math should work out because we've already done that. If we look at my drawing here, remember we've got these angles here, 46.87, and this one's the 43 and 13.13 because they're opposite each other. So I know all of these dimensions, and what that equates to is the 43.13 degrees here, or the 46.87, they equate to 38 and 7/16 per sheet. So what that means is, if I mark the peak way up here, this is 3 foot. On 1 foot, I would do a third of this, which 11 1/4? Yeah, duh, 11 1/4. So what I would do is, on 1 foot, the 43 degrees is actually 11 1/4 per foot. So every foot run, we go up or down, in this case, 11 1/4. So I multiply that by 3 because our sheets are 3 foot, and mathematically that should work. So we're gonna go ahead and make a cut, and we'll bring it up on the roof and see that we are right. Cross your fingers, guys, math never lies. So Greg's already done his measurement. He's coming down from that point, 33 3/4. You use the straight edge level over there to get your mark, and you're using the best nibblers that we have. I'm sure there's better ones. Now, Greg, because that's gonna go up into the point of our hip, can you go ahead and snip that back? Just like that, guys. Do not use hand snips. Buy yourself a set of nibblers. They'll cost you a few $100s and save you so much time and effort that you will thank me again and again, and we take tips. Okay, I didn't have my digital angle finder. I used my math, and we got this sweet cut. Greg did a really good cut. Nice job, Greg. Except for we did make the mistake in that we've got two different angles here, because it's kind of like a bastard hip. I think that's what you call it, because our dimensions weren't the same. So we've got two different pitches coming out of this hip, and we did the wrong one. So the good news is this pitch is for that side. So no big deal. We'll just use it there. Greg, next time, why don't you do it the right way? I'm joking, man. It was my fault.
I'm sorry.
It's my fault. I take ownership of that one. I had the angles wrote down, and in my mind I was thinking that this was the lesser of the two, but it's actually the sharper or steeper pitch of the two. So we'll go ahead, we'll make that cut correct the next time. And now that we know that though, we don't have to guess, we know exactly what we got to do. People always ask me how we cut pitch angles up the side walls, on the end walls I should say. Same thing on your hips or your roof. If you've got to cut angles, you should always use, obviously, math. Math never lies. A 412 pitch roof, a 312 pitch, whatever it is, there is a an angle to that, or a 412 pitch, so 4 inches per foot. Sheets of steel are almost always 3-foot profiles, so all you have to do is measure the pitch, multiply it by 3, and that is the distance from top to bottom on your angle. So hopefully that helps somebody. I remember back in the day when I used to pull out the tape measure, I'd measure one distance and then I'd move and measure over, and then I'd measure the other distance until someone shared that tip with me. So hopefully that helps somebody. Let me know down below in the comments if that was a great tip, if that's something you never knew and just changed your life for the better. That would be awesome. I would love to know that. Now what we do is I just go ahead and run off the peak, make sure I'm hiding my lap to the most visible spot, and we'll go ahead and just run one at a time. So we'll just back lap the sheet to the right, and then we'll lap the sheet to the left. But you can kind of see now how that works. So once we put our hip cap on there, it'll be nice and dark. You won't have light shining through. And sometimes I remember, sometimes I don't, to have them reverse the J so the color's on the inside. But honestly, after not doing it one time, I looked up in there and you can't see the white. I didn't think it was worth it. This way, if I got extras or if I'm missing a piece, it doesn't matter. I can use the universal J that I've got for other stuff on the job. Now that we've got this side of the roof installed, remember I ran these J's long. I will just take my square, I'll bring it out here to the face, and then I'll cut this J off. That way, this is perfect. It gives me some support under here for this little flap that's always here. And when you look up, it won't look so, oh, that's dark. It won't look so unfinished. And then our hip cap will come on, and I'll put a nice little bend down on it, and it'll just clean it up nice. So this right here is one of the most disappointing things about a bastard hip. When it comes to metal steel siding roofing material, you've got 9-inch ribs, and I want so bad to have all of these ribs line up. You can see that I started with a lined up rib, but as we go down the hip, they get off. And that's because this pitch here is not as steep as this pitch. So they're never going to be the same. I wish I could change this thing, but there's nothing I can do. So just giving you a heads up, if you got to do hips, try to make them the same. Try to make the dimensions 45. So what I mean by that is this dimension is 9 foot, but instead of being 18 foot with two 9 foot by 9 foot hips, this is only 16 foot. So we've got to come up with a difference somehow. We still want our hips to be out on our corners, and because of that, this is what happens. The only other thing that you can do, I think, but I'm not 100% sure. No, there's nothing else you can do. And if there is, please let me know. Now that we have this awesome connection trim, you can see this is a sidewall or end wall flashing. Got a nice little ledge up. Remember, we got that, you can see here, the edge of that 2x12 framing that we put in there. That was so that we can screw into this. Down here at the bottom, I do this nice little bend. And you gotta make sure, see if you can kind of see in here, I don't cut it straight out. You gotta cut it on a 4/12 pitch so that when this bends down, it'll actually not hit anything. Otherwise, for whatever reason, it just does. So I always put a pitch cut there. We'll got our sheet of steel to go tuck under there, and it'll go right up. If everything goes according to plan, I like to run our steel into the fascia here. That way when we put our fascia over it, it'll cap that nice. Gutter goes on, no worry about water. There we go, we got that piece in there. And I have not fastened this trim on the top side. So what I can do is I can lift this up. That way it's perfect. You know, this is the hardest one. You can kind of see what's going on there. It's all covered. See, this is the rib from the roof. So any water that does somehow get behind here, it's gonna work its way out right here. Gutter's gonna go all the way in, and then our fascia will cap this